Hello there, everybody. Nkateko, Ralph, Lucanio, Christian, how are you guys?
Great, thanks, and you?
Lekker, very welcome to Brokerage Talk. Can you guys all hear me?
Hi, Nico, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Who's speaking now, Lucanio?
It's Lucanio.
Yes, Lucanio.
Yeah, I can hear you, meneer.
I'm going to mute myself because actually I'm driving. I only realized when I got the reminder. So I'll be on mute for the whole session, just to limit the background noise.
Yeah, no problem at all. So, yeah, while you guys are waiting, I think it's a good rule to implement, obviously, and I'll reiterate it now, but if we don't talk, let's mute the microphones. I got like 31 people registered for the event, and we're not even close to that yet. So what I'm thinking of doing is, just while we wait for a couple of people to still log in, I'm going to play you a short video. Some of you might have seen it, some of you might not have. Let me quickly just share that with video, otherwise it's not going to sound nice for you guys. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to play, it's a short 3-minute video. It's quite funny to be interesting. It's a guys from Australia advertising a property. I think the coaches was actually joking about honesty is the best policy. I'm sure Christian is aware of it. If it's not him that shared it, Christian, I'm taking your content, eh? So here we go. Let's have a listen.
Yes, no, I need it tomorrow. Property goes on the market next week. Yeah, cockroach problem, big ones. Hang on, I'll call you back. G'day, Bruce here. Have I got a bargain for you? Now, every property deserves a nice big heading. You know, we've thought of the original suspects, detonate, renovate, worst house, best street, but that doesn't fit this one. So I want you to decide. So come with me, I'll give you some inspiration, but you're gonna need your imagination. Come on through, don't be afraid. Now, grand foyer entrance, deconstructed wall. Come on, watch your step, hold the ground. Now, the previous tenant has already done us the courtesy of starting the renovation one punch at a time. Now, come check out this beautifully renovated kitchen. Well, partially renovated, the other part's in the other bedroom. I love the mould splashback. Now, the owners have kept that theme going throughout the house. Their styling's on point. Let's go check out the master bedroom. Right, plenty of light in this room. Custom made, one of a kind, stained carpet. Open plan ensuite. Now, nothing says romance like laying in bed and talking to your partner while they're on the tush. Peekaboo! So, the owners already put the final touches to this renovation with a fresh toilet roll. The rest of the bathroom renovation, well, that's up to you. Come through, don't mind the walls. Check this out. So the previous owner said, should I replace the toilet? And I said no, because the next purchaser's taste in toilet might be different to yours. It's an interesting place to put a toilet. Come check out the artwork. So the previous tenant said, this is abstract art. To me, it looks like an asbestos hole in the wall. Now, I know this deck's seen better days, but really, just a lick of paint and she'll be right as. Maybe a couple of nails too. So, I know what you're thinking. Bruce, where are the bargains? Well, I've been saving this one for you. If you happen to be the successful purchaser of this grand home, we're going to throw in this treasure trove. So, is that a deal or what? I'll get the contract ready, you bring the cash. Excuse me for a second. Hello? Bruce is banging bargains. Yes, I've got a rat problem. Yes, big mousetrap. Yep, tomorrow. Probably goes on the market next week.
So yeah, what was your thoughts on that advertisement? I think the people definitely know exactly what they are in for. So what is your thoughts? So if you are here today, please make sure that you switch on your cameras. This is a brokerage talk, so it's not me talking at you. It's a discussion between all of us. So would be great if we can all just have a lacquer chat. Hello, Leon. Welcome. Leon, can you hear me? Hello, Ralph.
Hello, Nico.
How are you doing?
Well, and yourself?
No, it doesn't help to complain. I hope you liked my introduction video. What was your thoughts?
Yes, yes, very good.
That's definitely, I think the best caption is honesty is the best policy, right? So
Yeah.
if you are able to disclose everything up front, that is probably going to work best out for you. So I think we can start with today's presentation, or not presentation, us talking. I thought we will go through a couple of things and some interesting questions that came up this week with regards to what is it that investors want and what are they looking at before they actually accept an opportunity. So yeah, it's interesting. We've expected 31 people who registered for the event. I don't even think we are 10. So that's also quite interesting about that. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Right, so let's go. So this is going to be a one-way talk between you and me, Ralph.
Looks like it.
Alrighty. So what I normally put in my presentations when I do the SAP and public events is just the preferred criteria based on what we've received from investors. You know, that they would obviously look at property investment opportunities for below 2 million. They're looking for return on investments and gross yields from 15% and above. And then obviously from the brokerage point of view, we would require, there's a specific process that we require you guys to just complete the information, submit it to us so that we can look at the numbers, and then before that agree on the sourcing fee and then advertise it and take it through to our investors. Strategies that we're obviously accepting in this process are like flips, your buy-to-lets, multi-lets, installment sales, and sourcing. So this is the norm, and I'm like putting the norm over here because that's why these talks are there, right? If we feel that that's something that needs to be changing, ultimately from the brokerage point of view, we got two sites, and we've had a discussion last time with Leon that thankfully helped me a lot, seeing that we had some internet difficulties and technical problems last time, but this time it seems to be all okay. Touch wood. Let me not jinx it today. All right, then. What are investors looking for or looking at was a very interesting question for me to get some answers upon. And that's where the discussion today which I would like to get from you guys. So before we continue, there's obviously a chat box at the bottom. So what I can maybe ask you, are you currently approaching the brokerage from a point of view that I'm an investor looking for deals, or are you saying I have deals and I'm looking for investors? So in the chat box, quickly, just give me your thoughts so that I can understand, you know, from your point of view, how are the people online today approaching the brokerage? Are you looking for deals, or do you have deals? Are you guys all still out there? Because this chat room looks very empty. Christian says he's here because I told him to be. 100%. Yes, Christian, I'm glad you're here though. So we got Tsepo. Tsepo says he's looking for deals. All right, so you're coming from an investor point of view, Tsepo. Lucanio, you say nothing yet on my side. So are you also just saying, Lucanio, that you are presenting deals? You're not looking for deals, in other words. Do I understand you correctly? And you guys are welcome to switch on your cameras. You're welcome to switch on your microphones if you want to talk as well. we can take it through there. Christian is saying, I'm gradually getting access to deals, so we'll start presenting them in time. So yeah, we're looking forward to that, Christian, getting some good deals coming through. And I suppose these discussions will also help us making sure that we understand what the investors are looking for, because it's one thing putting a deal together, it's another thing understanding what they are looking for, right? Seppo, you said, my bad, I'm looking to present deals. All right, so you have deals you want to bring. Leon Kasselman says both. In time, he would like to obviously invest and then also bring deals to the brokerage. And I'm doing both, says Rolf, but still looking for deals. All right, so that's good. So you from an investor point of view as well. Then we have Tandi saying, I'm a new investor looking for back-to-back deals. So once again, that's an investor. And then we also have Lukanya just saying, still new in investing, therefore I'm finishing off my fundamentals course. Now that's all good, Lukanya. I think that's perfect. This is obviously an open discussion for all of us. So, I mean, there is no wrong questions, well, there could be wrong answers, but we should obviously just accept the answers from the people that's supposed to be giving them, right? And that's why it's also nice to just put a disclaimer down. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a tax advisor. I'm at the brokerage. I'm evaluating deals as a property coach. So I'm looking at it from an investor point of view as well. And therefore, it's also great, to get you guys' input while we go through this process. So now that we know, we obviously on the call have investors as well as we have people that's presenting deals. I would like us for a couple of minutes to just focus on the guys who's investing, looking for deals. So you are basically saying, I have some funding available or I'm pre-approved, but if a deal that makes financial sense to me is put in front of me, I will take that deal. So that is the understanding that I'm going forward with the next discussion. So what are investors looking for? And I would like you guys to just with me for a second, making sure that we start making a list of what are investors looking for. And you're very welcome to switch on and then I'll type it down. I'm sharing my screen because I do think it's important for us to write it down and just get some sort of information confirmed here. I can start it off by maybe saying, the first thing that we obviously would be looking for is return on investment. So it would be a favorable return on investments. Is that correct? So are we saying 15% and above? Is that what you guys agree upon? So yeah, let's hear what you're saying. So
yes, I'd say so.
Perfect. So we're talking about a return on investment, 15%. Is that acceptable to everyone on the call? Ralph, you say yes. Leon?
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that as kind of a benchmark to start from, right?
Okay. Anyone else?
I also agree. Remember, we also need to not just compare the ROI, but the cash flow to it too. You need to understand what your cash flow implications are. I mean, my first consideration always would be, if this is a cash flow positive property, how long is it going to take me to recoup my capital layout for purchasing costs and renovation?
So obviously you're looking for a buy-to-let or a multi-let opportunity from that point of view, right? Not necessarily from a flip. Then the cash flow would probably be used as an exit strategy or as something of the sort, right?
Yeah. Well, my core strategy will always be building up a buy-to-let portfolio. I feel if you stop flipping, you stop earning. So I'd rather build that base in the background.
100%. So you kind of build your equity through flipping, and you build your buy-to-let portfolio through the capital that you gain from the flipping.
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Nico, just on the ROI side, right? I use two measures in that respect, right? So the one flavor of ROI is simply the profit over your capital in the deal, which is the 15% that you're showing there, right? But for me, true ROI on a property, and I'm talking about buy-to-let or anything with the long-term view, not flips, right? The true ROI that I use is the profit plus the capital growth and the equity build-up in that as it grows over time, right? That's your true full picture of profit. And those are two benchmarks. It might be useful for rentals to look at that total view, right? So it's your profit that you make per annum, total profit, plus the equity gain in that year, whatever view you want to have on that.
100%. I totally agree with that. And ultimately, the whole idea is with equity is that you don't want to overcapitalize when you purchase a property. So you need to get it at the right price and it needs to cash flow, but there needs to be equity in the deal available, which makes it a sweet deal, right?
That speaks to the growth in that particular area as well, which is one of the other factors that I look at as an investor, right? Is there capital growth as well as cash flow? Because that's the sweet spot, right? You can get pure cash flow, but zero capital growth, and then the deal is way less attractive than if you have similar price deals side by side, which offers you both.
That's correct.
Right. So for me, I think it's important if we're going to present deals where possible that we can have a little bit of a view on both, or otherwise it's up to the investor to make. I'm just mentioning that there are some flavors of that, right?
100%. And I think what we'll do as soon as we finish with this process, we'll go through a current calculation and just look at what is the main things that calculator of ours will bring out and show us that we can have a look at before we make that financial decision, right?
Perfect.
Good. So, all right. So we got return on investments, we got cash flow, we got equity growth, we got area. I see that also Lukanya was talking about security, which is a very interesting topic that can keep us busy for many events going forward, I'm sure. All right, security. Anything else from you guys?
Nico, I think clearly, I mean, with whatever proposition, there's visuals that accompany that, right? You have the pure cold hard facts, but you also want to view something about that property. So images, potentially also videos, right?
100%. Yes.
Oh, the property condition.
Yeah, because that'll show you, right, visually what it looks like.
So are we going to put it in the same field, or are we going to put condition more like under the repairs and maintenance section? Like what is the revamp costs or revamp implication of this deal?
Rather separate. Because remember,
separate,
you find yourself looking at it with certain points of potential. So a property may need some renovation on the one side, but you can maybe not want to do full renovations because the property is perfectly suited for development later on or something.
100%. Just see, I see someone join us.
Nico, it's Lukanya here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh yeah, sorry. What about the capital costs? Wouldn't that also? I know that we've spoken about the ROI and all the other costs, but initially, wouldn't that also be something to look at as an investor?
Yeah, definitely. All your acquisition costs, right? So purchase price,
Yeah.
etc. You know, all the other stuff.
Yes. Did we lose Nico's connection or something? I can't hear him.
Nico, you're on mute.
Nico's on mute.
How did that happen?
So I thought maybe I was disconnected now.
Sorry, I'm not sure how that happened. All right, so basically we're talking about acquisition costs. Yes, so that is obviously your purchase cost, the bond costs and so forth, the bond attorney and so forth. Then we also have your legal costs, which will go on to your transfer costs and so forth, which is the attorney side. So I'm just breaking it down between acquisition costs and legal costs, yeah?
May as well go into the holding costs then as well on this deal, Nico.
Perfect.
And the period of renovation and then the period that the investor would be in the deal.
Time frame in deal, which means how long before I get my money back?
Yes.
You agree with that?
Just one point to add, Nico, just one point to add as well.
Yeah.
What about if the property is actually vacant or occupied? Wouldn't that also be
Good
something
point.
to consider as well?
Good
And
point.
definitely have a big impact, yeah?
Can't we then also add it to the time factor to see if it's maybe like some deceased estates take a while to wind up, or some could be going through a divorce, which also take time in from previous experiences.
So that might be the reason for sale. How would you put that? I agree with that. It's just how we figure it, right? Is it the property status, or is it? It wouldn't be property. It's not the actual property status, but it's just I think motivation for sale. Is it a cease estate? Is it a normal sale? Is it a forced sale? Kind of fits in that bracket, Neil. Nico?
100%. I do think, yeah, so are we saying then we're going to open up another line for occupation date? Someone's singing.
Sorry about that.
Occupation date could have an impact, right? Because it's either then, are there any occupation, what do they call it? Occupation rent, either way, right?
Yeah. With that occupation, because you can have an agreed occupation, and then there's if you buy, like, for example, an auction or a property with some squatters in that needs eviction, you need to understand the occupation risks or conditions, or is it a normal transaction, or is there anything you need to first evict before you can take occupation, right? Is it a forced sale, or is it not a forced sale? Something on that line is if it's occupied, right?
So yeah, so it's occupational risk.
Or shouldn't we use that word? Is it footstoods, something like that? Is it what it's called, right?
Yeah, but
that's different to an occupation where the tenant doesn't want to go out, or the occupant doesn't want to go out. Footstoods talks about of the property and the you accepting the risk of any patent or latent defects in there.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I don't think that's really relevant to the occupant of the property. Yes. What will be relevant to this is obviously the terms in your OTP. If you're saying that you are accepting the property with tenants, or that you are accepting vacant property.
Yeah, exactly, and that brings the existing leases into play as well, Nico. Whether there's a lease, a tenant with the lease that you have to honor as the new purchaser, right? Unless agreed otherwise.
100%. Yeah, so that is a very important point, right? Because the whole law thing about the huurgat voor koop still means that if that tenant his lease agreement is up until December, you can't evict him in September because the transfer taking place in September. You're going to have to wait for the lease agreement to run out at the end of December, unless you can come up with an agreement with that tenant, right? So there's always, anything can be negotiated, so long as done in writing.
Exactly, but you need to know about it first, right?
Yes, so when you're looking at the deal, and this is where we are, you need to be aware of the circumstances of the actual property in question, right?
Absolutely.
Right, so what else do we have on this property? So is there anything else that you guys can think of? What are we missing?
So Nico, so I would say multiple exit strategies. So I'd like to see the different exit strategies.
100%. Exit strategies, very important. And then something I would like to throw in here, which is also a nice question that I would like to ask, right, is if this is such a good deal, why are you not taking it? Right?
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're bringing this deal to me and you're saying this is this fantastic deal and you're advertising it, but there must be a reason why you're not taking it, right? And this actually brings me to a point of, as an investor, you would also like to be comfortable with the person bringing you the deal, or and this is now going to bring it down into two different things, right? You're going to have the seller, and then you're also going to have the sourcing agent, right?
Correct, and a profile for each.
And there's a profile for each. So the one of them, let me just put it like this as an example, is going to be like this and like this, right? So the sourcing agent is obviously finding this opportunity, and he's actually saying, this is a good opportunity and this is my reasons why. And I would like to now present this off to an investor to take it, whether the reason was that I can't take it, I'm busy with another transaction, so that could be a reason. I'm not able to qualify for multiple deals and there's another deal going on. I don't want to let this one go to waste. So that would be a sourcing agent saying, this is the reason for me basically not taking it myself. So it's either affordability, it's either timing, it's anything of the sort. Then you're sitting with a seller Well, the seller is basically just the person who you're going to take the deal over from, right? So that's the only reason why I'm putting it there. The sourcing agent might give this deal to you. You're now buying it from the seller. So you also need to understand that seller is then, the deal is secured with him. Does that make sense? So there's a security thing here that I'm talking about from a seller point of view. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah.
Ralph, you have a
Yeah.
thought?
No, I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah, so that is why you're not taking it. Then also, if you actually, the sourcing agent, are we saying that's the only issues that there is? I've actually had a thought about this being a problem. If someone actually presents this deal to me and I don't have a nice feel about the specific person as a sourcing agent, I don't connect with him, would that put me off, or am I going to look at the deal itself only? Does that make sense?
Yeah, true.
It can put you off.
Was that Tsepo as well, and Shan, right?
It can put you off.
Okay, so why would it put you off if it's a sourcing agent and you actually go through the numbers and run all of this? Is it just a personality thing?
I would say the biggest one can be trust factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So trust is obviously an issue. The thing is, why trust is a difficult thing for me is we cannot go into an opportunity with trust as a reason for taking the deal, nor not taking the deal, if that makes any sense from my point of view.
Yeah, no, I think it's just additional information that would actually help you. That's about it. So if you've got a sourcing agent that has done a number of deals, and it's all listed, then you could actually talk to that investor and say, this guy did this with you. Are you okay with the way he's handled it? And yes, so it's about to obtain some
experience.
That's right.
Past deals, right?
That's right. And you could talk to that investor and say that, I've done a deal with this investor and he's happy. You can, there's the information. You can actually go and give him a call and discuss with him as well.
So experience.
Yeah, I would agree with this, but I think a lot of this is up to you as the investor to do your research deal and whoever's involved in it as part of your due diligence before accepting a deal, yes or no. From a trust perspective, I'd like to know that that deal is secured or not, and how much, and then obviously at what cost it comes, and the risks that I'm taking. So I think all of that is mostly on my shoulders. But Nico, I think the question is just, what can we ask and expect as an investor to view in any kind of proposal that comes our way? What is fair to ask up front and to be discussed versus what you discover as you delve into a particular deal?
Yeah.
Because that's two different things, right?
100%. Totally agree with that. So what I can say based on the list, and you guys are welcome to say if there's something that you feel needs to be added to this list, if you can think of it. But what we can actually go and break down security a little bit more. Because what types of security are we talking about? And when it comes from a legal point of view, what is the security that we're going to accept as an acceptable security form, and what is non-security forms, right? And something that will go into my next slide is, with a higher risk, you're probably going to get a higher return. With a lower risk, you're probably going to get, lower returns, or low return, low risk. Does that equate for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So, but that links to a bunch of things, to like area, experience. It brings together a whole host. If you're talking about deal risk, as opposed to property risk, etc. So that's two different elements. But again, a lot of that is part of due diligence on your own side, where you need to make up your own mind when you do your own research. There's some basic information that I would expect to get from a proposal, but thereafter, I need to do my own due diligence and say, okay, so do I like that area? Do I like that security? The core differences, if I'm a part player, if I'm one of a few investors potentially, right?
Yeah.
You get a where there's a seller or an agent, sourcing agent on the one side, and there's me as an investor. And if I take that deal 100% by myself, there's just me in the scenario. But if the deal is asking for a couple of investors, let's say at 100K each, to make up that balance and create like a little stokvel almost, or an investor club around that particular deal, then there's different questions that then come to mind. And then that question about trust, security, if I pay my 100K over so long and you still are looking for the other investors to make up, the other 9 investors to make up $1 million, that it gets, then security becomes important. Where's that money, et cetera, right? So there are deals and deals, and there's simple deals and slightly more complex deals. And the funding model is also something that should be in this list somewhere, right, Nico? So if it's a single, are you looking for a single investor, or are you looking to create an opportunity where investors with smaller capital can partake in a JV or a bigger deal?
So single investors, multiple investors, or is it the shared risk type thing so that you kind of get your risk spread evenly between a couple of people? It's not all of your risk going into one pot, right? It's almost like investing into Bitcoin as a very weird outside the box thinking example, right? But obviously you're not going to be investing in Bitcoin if you don't have that to lose. You're always going into the mindset that you will only take that opportunity or that risk if you know it's not going to take food off your table, as an example.
Yeah, but some people pitch it like that, right? So if you take TJ of N5 as an example, right? Yeah. The type of deals that they do, they create opportunities. They're slightly bigger opportunities. They're not the simple buy-to-let model, right? They are creating a flat block of flats, or they're transforming stuff. Those projects which come to the table are slightly different. And you usually put together, it's very difficult for one party to come up with, say, 4 million Rand or 3 million Rand, right? And then what they do, they create opportunities for 100K, and they're willing to bring in 10 investors in the deal, create a new company, and run that as a JV with those partners, right? Whether they become shareholders or just passive investors, slightly different to a single deal. That's why I think we need to distinguish between the two, because you are going to get deals that is just above the threshold for most of us, right? By yourself. And then we could circulate that amongst a bunch of investors, and they might have appetite to partake on a share basis or participate.
That's also, yeah, like you say, it's a type of crowdfunding, right? You're trying to get multiple people to provide you with smaller amounts of money to come up with a bigger amount so that you can do a deal, but therefore also spreading the risk over more than a couple of people. Obviously, that I think would come with a lot of its own headaches and processes and procedures that needs to be put in place, because there's a lot of communication, not just with one person, but with multiple people at the same time. And yeah, I do think it's definitely an option. So the question is, that is obviously strategy based as well as opportunity based, right? So strategy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So strategy, let's look at strategy. I think that's also a very important thing, right? Because you get investors that would be willing to go into multi-lets because there's a cash flow and they can either get their money back on a monthly basis, or there's capital gains, and then they can obviously use that capital gains to go into future products. But what about the angel investor? The person who's saying, I don't want to get involved in the deal. I physically want to give you a little bit of money, and I'm expecting a return on investment.
That's the one that I was mentioning, the second scenario, Nico, because it could be one person who's angeling all of the money, or it could be a couple of angel investors. There's a deal floating around, and people look at that deal and say, hey, I'm interested in taking up a portion of that, right? Because that's what I can afford, or where my risk appetite is, what I'm willing to commit to that particular project, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I think just at the end of the day, there are deals and deals. And in our environment, you find the simple ones and you find the small ones and the big ones, right?
Yeah.
The big ones. And there's many players which are floating the bigger deals around. M5, TJ is one of them, Kuro, and they do a mix of all these. I think we just need to cater for simple deals, more complex deals, with single shareholder, single investor, or multi-investors type opportunities. And then instead of just focusing on exit strategies, also focus on the options for deal strategies there, right? So if there's a property that comes into the brokerage up as an opportunity, what are the strategies that will work for this deal? In other words, it could be a multi-let, or it could be an Airbnb, short-term let. That will work for both those strategies. They're not exit strategies per se, but those are two primary strategies you can apply. The exit strategy would be that you can float it out or turn it into a long-term rental for a single family.
Yeah.
So the difference between what the primary strategy on the deal might be versus the exit strategy, right?
Yes.
I'd like to get the guy who's on the ground, who's bringing the deal, to say, at least, I think this will work for these strategies, having seen and viewed, and I'm bringing the deal to you.
100%. So you kind of needed to make that identification as well as having a backup to say, if this works, well, this is how we see it work. And if this doesn't work, this is what we can fall back on as it's almost falling part of your security and your exit strategies.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, it's just some properties just has one strategy. Others you can run more if you can convert. If there's an old building, a commercial building that comes up with the right rights, you can convert it to student accommodation as an example, right? But you can also use it in sectional. You can sectionalize it, etc., or create a little hotel if the rights are right. So it's just standing, because you're not on the ground. You're viewing a proposal, and what I'd like to know is when that proposal is in front of me, the guy who's brought it, who's done the negotiations, who's viewed it, who's done the inspection, is bringing it to us. What can it be used for, right? I'll run my due diligence on that then.
Most definitely, and I do agree with that. And I think, any person who's an investor, in my opinion, who invests in something without going to view that property is taking some risks, because he's going on word of mouth, right? He's kind of not making up his own mind. And if you're the investor putting down the risk, you kind of need to know what you're letting yourself into. And viewing is definitely high on that list.
I agree. So, but it also speaks to the matching with investors, right? So if you want to have a deal that comes in, and you know that, and whoever brings it to the party says there can be 1, 2, or 3, you can do 1 or 3 things with this property. It makes it easier to match with investors who have said, I'm looking for this, or this strategy, right?
100%. Yeah. So it's just the linking up to the investors and opportunities, 100%. An easy example can be buying a house. It's on a massive yard of 1,000 to 2,000 square meter earth, right? But you know that this property can be rezoned so that you can have multiple buildings on it. Like in Johannesburg, you can have 3 dwellings on this piece of property. So there's always additional options to increase your cash flow coming in from that property, based with obviously with its own expenses. But from an equity point of view and additional income and cash flow improvements, there's always additional options that can be taken into consideration for something like that as well.
Nico,
one question I have on
Yes.
there's one thing which I've previously picked up is the OTP signed? I found it, that's usually a very valid question from an investor, because that also determines sometimes the amount of time one has to be, one has to be involved. Because some investors will say, if they get involved in making sure that OTP signed, then your brokerage goes down.
Yeah, so we obviously say, is the deal secured? In other words, did I just see this property on property 24 and now I'm trying to source it on? Or did I actually have the discussion, view the property, looked at the maintenance, and then come up with an OTP with certain suspensive conditions that's favorable to the investor, right?
Correct. But also
involvement in the transaction. with that specifically. And similarly, so the type of seller might be important. I mean, if you're going to deal with an insolvent or a deceased estate, it could potentially take considerably longer. So you need to also give some indication in terms of what type of time frame there will be in terms of securing the transaction. I mean, the one insolvent estate deal that I'm busy with, I signed my offer to purchase last year, September, and I'm still waiting.
Yeah. So let's break the time frame down then just a little bit there. So if we then say from a time frame and deal, so number one is how long before I get my money back, but there could also be how soon can we have access, or how soon, occupation, but we've spoken about occupation, right? So we can actually take that in there. You agree with that? Because we're obviously talking about situational, like Christian was now saying. If it's a deceased estate or something of the sort, it might take much longer before you get access to that property, because it might be stipulated that it's on transfer, and transfer on a deceased estate could take much longer, yeah?
Yeah. Well, similarly, so it's just further information, like if it's a deceased estate, is the executor already appointed? Is there a liquidation and distribution account? So to just know where you are in the process.
So we're talking about the reason for sale, in other words.
Well, reason for sale as well as point of progress in the transaction.
Yeah. Right. That's a very healthy
if we could also, regarding the time frame, and I think we had the discussion about, if the OTP was signed and how long do we have? For example, sometimes there's a suspensive clause that says I've signed on the 1st of August and you've got until the 15th of August when this will actually, expire. So we need to know how long does the whole process, or do we have to react to this whole offer, as an example. So I'm not sure.
So it's basically, when is the money required?
No, it's at which time do you need to make the decision and sign the deal, sign the OTP, I want it, because if you've got an OTP that's, or a suspensive clause in there saying that you have 15 days, I've actually signed this offer on condition that, I'm going to do some investigation and come back to you. So so often if there's an estate agent involved, they will say you've got X amount, and after that it's going to be open to, whoever else would be interested in that offer.
100%. So ultimately, it comes down to exactly that, as what is the suspensive conditions in that OTP. When do I need to give securities for?
True.
Or securities buy. And people might say, all right, like the angel investor opportunity that we currently have on list in Cape Town, in Kraaifontein, the people need 4 investors of 980,000 Rand each. They've signed a 44, or was it a 40-day? I think it was a 40-day suspensive condition to raise finance to secure the property, right, to buy the property and do the acquisition. And that was signed on the 31st of July. So, 40 days from there, and then you need to be sure you understand the fact about, is it including public holidays and weekends, or does it not? Is it completely just 40 days from that date? How was it specified, right? That could make a huge impact and difference on that time frame.
That's true, because over the last week, Andrew and I were, have been looking at a deal, and then we were only given or informed about it like a few days ago. And then we were told yesterday that no, it's actually ended and it's been handed out to the next guy. So it was done.
Yeah.
So we had no idea as to how long we had to investigate. So we planned to go out and see the property this weekend, and of course by then we were told no, it's gone.
Right, so obviously that like you say, and out of that experience, you now know you need to ask that question up front as an investor, number one.
Absolutely.
And number two is what is the sorry, what is the availability or the options to extend that OTP if necessary, right?
True, absolutely.
Perfect. So based on this document, you can obviously see that there's quite a lot of information that gets taken into consideration by an investor coming to the brokerage saying that I'm looking for 15% is not just easy by saying I'm looking for 15% ROI. In order to then satisfy an investor, I basically need to give him answers to most of these. And I'm saying that we would be able to go and say some of these are more important than other ones, and they can physically be rated based on importance for the investor. And that importance can also differ because that could be a different importance for an angel investment opportunity based on a flip, based on a buy-to-let opportunity. So we can say that all those importance will fluctuate, depends on the situation and the deal involved by itself. You agree?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Just on something else that we picked up, is that when the deal, so the sourcing agent does his bit and he hands over to the brokerage, you do your bit, you hand over to us, and then, or to the investor, and then, you know, each one is expected, you know, an amount of the deal, you know, which is fair. But then we don't get to know there's an estate agent involved as well, you know. So if there's an estate agent involved, how will that process actually slot in? For me, it would be the person that's going to sell the property. He would have to pay the estate agent.
Correct. So basically, it got nothing to do with you because that person selling needs to be happy that he's still going 100%. To sell the property for X amount, but he's also paying a commission to that estate agent from that amount.
Well, that's true. Okay,
correct.
Good.
And that's why also the sourcing fee must be something that doesn't sink the deal, as if I can put it that way, but also that sourcing fee, because that sourcing fee need to be split between the brokerage and that sourcing agent, right? And the sourcing agent has to be happy with that, and the brokerage is saying, I'll be happy with it so long there is a minimum requirement of 15,000 Rand as a sourcing fee as an example. It shouldn't go below that value. And also there's a 2,500 Rand admin fee that needs to be taken into consideration, because we obviously need to do a lot of the vetting on this deal. We obviously need to make sure that we do, if necessary, we need to do the surety ship documentation, which is all that we do from a brokerage point of view to just make sure we keep it secure.
I think the end goal is that everybody that's involved should actually win. You know, that's the bottom line.
Always, otherwise it's a bad deal.
Exactly. And the other thing that I was actually inquiring about regarding the, you know, once the investor needs to start investigating, the one part is about applying for a bond or to get a bond approval and things, or a pre-approval. So if as part of the process, I'm assuming that we need to approach, I don't know, APSA or whoever. In this case, we can even talk to Christian, I'm sure, to actually help us on that, you know.
Your first protocol, for sure.
Great, yeah, thanks.
Did you see Christian on the line?
Yeah, I see. The handsome guy, yeah.
He's smiling all the way.
There we go.
Not sure. Thanks.
Okay, now cool. Thanks so much. I agree with that. You're all happy with that from an investor point of view, yes? So now I can go to the next question, which is saying, who is the sourcing agents, the people who have the deals, who's providing this? My question to you would be, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of crickets now, are you providing the investors with all this information when you are submitting an opportunity to the brokerage?
That's actually a very good question, Nico, and I'll need to zip out shortly to meet Andrew, but I think I'm going to add a last few thoughts on this here. So with any proposal, there is supporting documentation that needs to come to view the deal, with both an investor hat, but also as a sourcing agent to provide that to both, right? So have you done a Lightstone? I want to see that Lightstone. I don't want to redraw the Lightstone, for example. Is there a body corporate? What's the financials? Have you obtained the financials as part of your sourcing agent due diligence, right? Or the investor diligence? have you checked the numbers that makes up your operating costs, your monthly operating costs, and where's the evidence for that? A copy of your rates and taxes, the proof of ownership that the seller actually owns the property, stuff like that. So there's a whole set of documentation that I'm expecting as an investor to arrive, and as a sourcing agent that I would understand that I need to provide to help with some of the early questions around, do I trust? Is there evidence that help increase my trust in the party that I'm dealing with as well? So I think those are important factors around documentation, that there's a comprehensive set of documentation that supports every aspect of the deal being proposed.
In short,
can I ask a question?
What you want to see? Sorry, Chipo, go for it.
No, I want to ask a question based on that. Is then, when do you show the investor all this documentation? Because then, I mean, if it's an investor you've worked with before, you could come with it, you know, from the beginning. But if it's a new investor you're working for with, how do you protect yourself? Let's say from a brokerage, that I'm going to give you all this information, you know, and how do I protect myself?
Sure, and that's an easy answer, luckily, Tsepo. Because if you do bring a deal to the brokerage, we're immediately going to send you an NDA agreement, which is an NDA non-disclosure agreement between us as yourself, the brokerage, and you. And then if we receive an email from someone, because we will create an ad once we've agreed the terms with you, as this is the actual numbers, this is the sourcing fees, and all of that has been agreed. Do we agree that these numbers are accurate according to your knowledge and with the supporting documentation that you have? You will then say, yes, I'm happy to go forward with these terms. I'll say, all right, now let's create an advert. The advertisement will go out to the public. We obviously go first to the premier, the professional intermediate members. They get 72 hours to have a look at these deals so that they can find the deal first. And then as soon as that 72 hours is over, that advert goes out to the entire database to make sure that we can get everyone who's ever listed himself as someone who's looking for a deal will find that advertisement, right? They will mail us to info@brunosamauproperty.co.za saying that I'm interested in this deal, which is angel investment. There would be a code associated to that deal. We would say, thank you very much for your interest. Please sign the following NDA disclosure, which makes sure that we protect the confidentiality of the deal before we provide you with the supporting documentation. And then that file that we will share with them will only be sent to them once the NDA is received back.
Okay, that's great stuff.
Yeah, so your big challenge as a sourcing agent is to have all of this documentation ready and handy, because ultimately any investor will want to see as much detail as possible. And over and above that, having a little one-pager teaser that's basically your advert for it, because that's how you're going to pique people's interest. And it'll also make it a lot easier for you to discern what type of investors you're working with. And if I've got a set criteria in terms of this area, this price, this return, immediately if I just look at that covering page and I see, okay, cool, 3 out of the 4 boxes are ticked, then I would want more information. So it's also about making your work easier for yourself in terms of marketing that opportunity onto investors.
100%.
With that, Christian, because there's definitely 2 or 3 steps in this thing, right? The first is just a marketing blurb, which doesn't have to have all this level of detail in. It's just the numbers and the selling points, the marketing, the investor's proposal. But underneath there has to be this. If I'm seriously interested in this deal as an investor, and to Nico's point, everybody has signed NDAs, etc., and there's clear tracking that's being facilitated and tracked through then I would expect to be able to be given access to this, right? Otherwise, how do you matchmake and how do you actually get to a deal if there's no trust? But so if it's not there, it shows to me that this sourcing agent didn't do his work properly, and there's missing information, etc. Then I immediately question whether this is a good, there's risk in the deal, right? Etc. But yeah,
just
anyway, so comprehensive pack versus sales marketing glossy. That's the big difference for me.
100%. So just a quick example or note from my side, and we get this quite a lot coming in from the brokerage, where people would actually present us with an opportunity, and they will send, and that's, I'm kind of going to answer you as well, Lucanio, on your question about is there a format available for a property investment proposal. So just to get back to that in one way is people will send us a proposal, and the proposal would say, this is the deal. It got a 25% return on investment, and here is a Lightstone, or maybe it's not even a Lightstone, it might just be a TPN, or it might be something else. And that's why we've decided on a specific structure on a document and submission to this office, so that we can have decent basic information to work from and then go from there. But as you can see, just based on this document, on everything that's required by an investor before he will make a decision, there's quite a lot of work that goes in from us to go to investors and try and sell this deal to them. So what I would also just like to say is then when we actually have to then take that information from the proposal, we need to go and calculate that, put it onto our calculator, and run it on the different scenarios, whether it is with or without deposits, whether it's over 20 years, over 30 years, which you as the sourcing agent were supposed to do in the first place. And then we go and do that, and we find out that our return on investment values is different from what you have on your proposal document. So now, number one is there's a discrepancy between the proposal document and the actual calculator that was calculated to do this deal. And I can't then go back and say, well, I now need to redo all of these figures. If I say, sorry, but it doesn't match, your proposal and your calculator fees and calculations doesn't match, you need to go and investigate, come back to me and say, this is the reason why it doesn't match. There was a mistype here or an error, because return on investment gets calculated as return on investment. There's a capital investment requirement value and there's a profit value. So you can't really calculate return on investment different. And if you do, I'm advising you to go and have a look at my video again and understand how we complete it, right? But ultimately, when you've completed your documentation, the first step that needs to happen, as per the checklist on that calculator as well, is to make sure that you submit the information, submit the documentation, the calculations, and then set up a meeting with me and let's go through it. Because then we quickly go through it. Remember, that's going to take probably another 30 minutes to an hour for us to have a discussion and making sure that we cross-check and double-check all your figures. I might be asking you questions relating to sourcing deal. I might be asking you to an angel investment opportunity. You might not have thought about it, but then we need to go back to the drawing board, because the time when I say, yes, we all agree that this is a deal, and then we advertise it, the investor comes back and say, yeah, this looks fantastic on paper, now prove it to me. That is where you as the sourcing agent must have the ability to also present that to an investor and say, Mr. Investor, I believe in this deal and this is why I believe in this deal. You should be taking this deal and this is why you should be taking the deal. And in that process, be able to answer all of these questions that we've just typed up on a document now and have the confidence to do it, because you will have confidence to sell it if you have confidence in the deal yourself. And that's why, coming back to sourcing agents, what is a sourcing agent? A sourcing agent is someone who calculated the deal, who found it to be a good deal, but for whatever the reason is at the moment, he can't take it himself and therefore don't want the deal to go to waste and rather say, let me make a couple of bucks out of this, but pass it on to another investor. So you should be able to, as a sourcing agent, also to be able to put your hat up as an investor yourself and say, this is what an investor wants. This is what I'm providing you as an investor. And that's growth for everyone.
That's what they get the money for, sourcing for, to do exactly that. And put yourself in the investor's shoes and understand it with the templates that you guys provide and the process, Nico, to come up with something that works for investors in the right format with the right quality into it, right? And with your help to QA and to point out any potential differences. That's a big value add for me as an investor. If there's a deal on the table, you checked it, and I can see that there's some small differences in some areas where you've said, okay, it might be a little bit more here and a little bit less there. That's a big value add. So fantastic. Yeah. Because I've got to, please excuse me, but I appreciate it. I'd love to see the output of this after the session. Maybe you can pop a mail, or we'll chat later, I'm sure.
Thank you. I'm sure we're probably going to have to go over to another session because our hour is almost up in any case. Yeah. I think we can do a take two.
All right. Good luck, guys. Thank you very much for your time.
I also have to jump out as well. So if there's anything, please, you're welcome to share it with us as well.
Thank you, Chip. I do think what will probably happen is that we're probably going to stop the chat for today and continue it into the next session, because it's valuable for me to have everyone online while we go through these discussions and make sure that it's productive every time we do it. I will probably still stay on here for another 10 minutes or so. We can quickly have another discussion. I don't even think I got to do everything today, but yeah, that's what the chat is about, right? Let's discuss.
Yeah, I've also got to get running. Unfortunately, I've got a 1 o'clock meeting.
Thank you, Christian.
But thanks so much for this, Nico. This was very insightful, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you put everything together in the brokerage.
Here we go.
Very, very exciting to see everything go into a direction.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Christian. We will make it work. We got a good team.
Yeah, exactly that. Cheers. Have a good weekend, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There we go, guys. I don't think it's going to be a lot of quality if we do go further. I'm going to keep this, and we can always continue the discussion next week. And maybe also, if you guys have any questions that you think we can discuss in future sessions like these ones, please email it to me. And I mean, then we can take these discussions to a little bit more depth and get some good quality answers, or brainstorm it, right? Let's look at the positives, let's look at the negatives, and we make decisions going forward.
Cool. Thanks,
Okay.
Nico.
Thanks, Nico.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Yes, Clifford.
Thanks, Nico. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Nkateko.
Thanks, Nico. Bye.
Yeah, sorry, just before we jump off, so I just have a question, right? So is there specific like template or calculators that sort of like investors can use, you know? So to avoid a situation where a sourcing agent brings a deal and you have to sort of redo the work, you know, where you have to now, you know, sort of, you know, do your own sort of due diligence, you know, because you don't want to necessarily rely on what the sourcing agent is providing. You know, so is there a way where we can use sort of like the same template? You know,
You're talking about the proposal, right? You're talking about the proposal document physically.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So I'm sure there is multiple proposals out there, and I think in the calculator that we gave a structure of what would be minimum requirements into a proposal, right? And what I do think, you know, I can probably get some. We obviously might need to just get approval from those people to share it, because everyone is doing their own proposals. But I can't just go and take the one person's proposal and then share it with everyone and say, this is a good one that I found. I need to get approval from him first to do so. And that's why the proposal that we've put in is basically just a blanket document saying that this is the content, and maybe let's look at indexes and some headings that needs to be in this, but your content needs to go into that. And ultimately, if we do think about it, this document that we have here now, and we will be able to share this video recording with you guys as well, then you can always make sure that you have a copy of this document. If you answer these questions in your proposal document, all right? And there's a lot of the information here that might stay the same. If you're going to go into your personal background, where do you come from? What was your history? How many sales have you done? That information will probably stay the same for a fairly good time, and you can only update that as deals progress. And if you find better deals that you want to put in there to advertise your knowledge and your skills and what you've been able to achieve, maybe even, you know, with past investors that you've been working with, if they actually say, I've worked with you, the deal that it have its ups and downs, but it was a successful opportunity. We had a good business relationship. That's going to speak wealth and big words towards your capability as well as trustworthiness for that deal to go over to another investor, right? So there's stuff that will stay stable, but there's also stuff that's going to be obviously deal dependent, because it's going to be dependent on the strategy, return on investments. No two deals are the same.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I just needed clarity on that, because I, you know, so I'm part of the fundamentals course. So I think on module 9. I think they did share the different investor presentation documents here.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. So yeah, I do think ultimately, you know, if you are considering becoming a sourcing agent yourself, you would want to put together two types of proposals. You would want to put the detailed proposal together, which covers everything from the time you were born all the way to the time where you are now, all the deals you've done, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but also your experience as a person, the education you have, all of that would go into a deal proposal, and then some deals that you have done in the past and give some examples. Maybe even talk about the education you have had with regards to property. Maybe adding information relating to, have you been coached before? Have you gone on the fundamentals course? Are you part of SAP and SA Property Investors Network? Do you attend these events? Have you pitched deals at these events in the past? It all adds credibility to you as a property investor and how you are playing the game. I'm using playing the game very loosely here, but how you are, portraying yourself as a professional property investor, and can you back that up?
Yeah, right. So would you say that mostly investors that you find are mostly angel investors, or it's investors that would actually like to be part of the deal, where you actually splitting the equity, so maybe going in 50-50, or is it just people that are just putting in their money and they just want the return?
Sure. There's two things. Number one, on paper, I got investors for all of them. When it comes to reality, most investors would like to be kind of involved, or they would like to understand what's happening in the project. They won't just pay money into an account and expect a return on investment without some sort of security. And security to them, right? And I've spoken to an investor this week who's an investor of 10 million Rand available in his bank account right now to invest. And his main focus is, right, if I want to invest in an opportunity, I need to know that the equity available in the deal will cover me if something goes wrong. That is basically his only requirement.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, no, it makes sense, yeah.
Interesting to think about it that way, right? Because we've just completed this entire document stating, all of the rules and things that investors want. But at the end of the day, the investor who's been doing this quite a lot knows that I just want to know that I can get my money out of the equity out of this deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that was a fantastic chat, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time onto this webinar today. Next week, same time, same place. I'll make sure that we continue this discussion, maybe go over a little bit into, maybe it's a good thing to go into, proposals. Let's talk about proposals, and now we need to present it to the investors. We've now looked at the investor side, so maybe next week, let's look at the sourcing agent side.
Yeah, definitely, because I think there should be a standard, So if someone presents a document and there's certain things that are not there, then I think that document needs to be sent back to the investor. So there needs to be certain details that need to be in that pack.
100%. Yeah. So I think that's a good point. So I'm going to make that the point of discussion for next week. But like I say, if you guys have something else, please email me. I need to keep this going on a weekly basis, but I do think, these things is kind of forthcoming. If we don't have a topic to discuss, we will go into deals, right? And there's always deals. So there will always be something we can talk about, but I think let's go into proposals next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Thanks a lot, Nico.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nico.
Have a
Bye,
fantastic
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.